Before we begin, I want you to close your eyes and imagine there is a lemon sitting on a cutting board on the table in front of you. Now imagine taking that lemon in your hand and feeling the texture of it on your fingers. The smoothness of the skin combined with the small dips along the surface. Imagine bringing the lemon up to your nose and smelling it, pressing the lemon against your cheek and setting it back down on the cutting board. Now imagine taking a knife and cutting into the lemon. The juices leaking out onto the cutting board as the knife slides through it. Some of the juices squirting out towards and away from you as you cut, while the smell fills the space around you. Imagine taking one slice of that lemon and lifting it up towards your mouth and then biting into it. The sour taste hitting your tongue and cheeks. Now I have one question for you. Did you salivate? On July 16, 2020, for the first time since 1979, the International Association for the Study of Pain introduced a revised definition of pain. Pain is an unpleasant sensory and emotional experience associated with or resembling the association with actual or potential tissue damage. A sensory and emotional experience. This is an important definition because we have known for a long time that pain is a sensory experience, much like the commonly viewed five senses of taste, touch, sight, sound, and smell. In physical therapy school, we also learn how these sensations are transmitted from our body to our brains to be scrutinized. The transmission of the sensory messaging of pain is via something called the lateral spinothalamic tract in the spinal cord. A danger message is received by the body by special receptors. This danger message is sent to the lateral spinothalamic tract and travels up the spinal cord to the brain, where it is then analyzed for significance based on a number of factors. If the sensation of pain is of utility, then the brain outputs pain to get our attention. The sensation of pain would not be helpful, then the brain does not output pain. A good way to imagine this process is to think about spraining your ankle. If you sprain your ankle stepping off a curb into a street, it hurts. But if you sprain your ankle stepping off a curb and notice a bus is about to hit you, well, then it doesn't hurt. This is because the brain is constantly analyzing your external and internal environment to determine the utility of experiencing pain. Just like every sense you experience from day to day, the brain has to filter these experiences. Otherwise, the sheer magnitude of how much sensory information there is around us would be crippling. Can you imagine if you couldn't zone out the sounds of all the activity in a busy restaurant? Or if you lived in a big city and couldn't zone out the sounds of traffic? Or if you couldn't eventually get used to the rancid smell of working on a farm or at another stinky job? The brain selects what is useful and uses it to get your attention and filters out what can be filtered out. It does this filtering 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. So by now I'm sure you're asking yourself, if pain is a sensory experience, and the brain's goal is to bring my attention to a problem, like a sprained ankle, or distract me from a problem, like a bus, why am I in constant pain with little to no relief? We'll come back to that, but first I should introduce myself. My name is Chase Teagarden, and I'm a doctor of physical therapy. What makes me unique as a physical therapist is my passion for chronic pain. I want to tell you about that passion and how I got to the point of making this video. So let us go back in time to my first experience with back pain. The year was 2007, my junior year of high school, and in the weight room it was max out day. A day where all the football players come together to achieve their 1 repetition maximum on various lifts. As one of the team captains and one of the strongest players on the team, I was expected to break my old record on the deadlift. I walked up to the bar with my coach and peers cheering me on, and I tried 5 times with all my strength to lift the bar. I failed each time, with the final attempt ending with my coach saying, "All right, that's enough, you're going to hurt your back." My back felt fine at the time, but 2 days later, with my teammates giving me flack for not breaking my record and my ego severely bruised, my back started to hurt. I went to a chiropractor, and after pushing on me a little bit, he stated, "You definitely messed yourself up. Any more and you probably would have broken your back." A few pops and clicks later, and my back was feeling better. From that point forward, I had occasional back pain, sometimes following lifting, sometimes when waking up, and sometimes for seemingly no reason at all. And I would follow the same routine, visit the chiropractor, feel slightly better until the next time I had pain. Fast forward to 2012. I had been training hard to prepare for a football tryout with a Division II school in Missouri, putting a lot of pressure on myself to get stronger. And one morning I woke up with severe back pain and immediately called my chiropractor. He gave me an adjustment and it felt okay for a few hours, but then that evening I ended up on my knees in excruciating pain. I was in complete agony, unable to even stand. I was sent to see an orthopedic surgeon and told that I had herniated my L5-S1 vertebral disc. To fix my pain, I needed to have surgery. So that is what I did, and I was better. For now. My severe pain was gone, but I would occasionally get the same back pain I felt since 2007. It was roughly 6 months after surgery, and I had my strength back and was finally ready to try out for the football team. The tryout went well, and the next few days after sitting for a while at my computer, I stood up and my back flared up again with a vengeance. There go my football dreams, I thought to myself, as I crawled to my bed in hopes I would wake up without pain. But that did not happen. I woke up with pain worse than I'd ever felt, and I called my father in tears. He told me to call my orthopedic surgeon, and so that's what I did. I drove home, got an appointment with him, and shortly after I was having another surgery on the same L5-S1 vertebral disc. I walked out of surgery with minimal pain, and I thought to myself, I've done this before, so I feel confident, and I'll be feeling better in a few months. But that thought was wrong. Very, very wrong. When I began to walk longer distances a few weeks after the surgery, I felt a burning pain in the bottom of my left foot. At first, it was only while walking. I called my surgeon, and he told me it was normal, and it would eventually go away. It did not go away. I kept feeling it while walking until eventually I felt it all of the time. It spread to my entire foot to the point where I could not even walk. Eventually, I couldn't even wear a sock on my left foot, and finally, something as light as a brush of air would send me in a torrent of burning pain. I went to doctor after doctor trying to understand what was happening to me, and I was given drug after drug trying to find relief. They each helped a little, until eventually they did not help at all. And finally, I was diagnosed with complex regional pain syndrome, formerly known as RSD. I had never heard of this condition, as I'm sure a lot of you haven't either, and the neurologist that diagnosed me with it could not tell me much outside of, you will live with this for the rest of your life. When I went home and Googled the condition, I saw that 70% of people never get better, and the ones that usually do have recurrences. And I also saw that it was one of two conditions dubbed the suicide syndromes, because a large amount of people diagnosed end up taking their own lives or cutting off their own limbs. It was not the most exciting news for a 22-year-old college athlete to hear. A few days later, while struggling to stand in my kitchen and drinking a glass of orange juice, I fell to the floor and spilled it everywhere. Laying there, emaciated, 60 pounds lighter, and 10 months from when I had had my football tryout, taking 16 pills a day just to manage the pain and using my mother's old walker just to get around, I began to cry. What kind of life is this? I thought to myself. I can't do the things I enjoy. I can't even walk. I'll never be able to care for a family. I am trapped inside a body that is failing me. Living the same day over and over again, just trying to get through the pain. In that moment on the floor, covered in orange juice, I thought about ending my life. I would take all the pills at once and it would all be over. But then it hit me. I have tried everything my doctors have told me and not done anything they told me not to do. Maybe it's time for something different. So instead of ending things, I did exactly that. I did something different. I quit my pills cold turkey, which I don't recommend. And I decided to start walking without the walker, just for one step each day. Once one step became easy, I started taking 2, and then 3. Every morning I would wake up, place both my feet on the floor, take a deep breath, and I would step. I focused on nothing else but those moments, one step at a time for myself. To my surprise, day by day, I could go farther and farther without pain. I eventually started walking on a bike trail and also discovered that I could do yoga at my own pace with minimal pain. Oftentimes, collapsing on the yoga mat to cry, not because it hurt, but because I was healing. I would eventually return to school to finish my undergrad degree in health sciences. After my experience, I knew I wanted to help people. So I began my master's in exercise physiology and applied to physical therapy school. Throughout school, I was relentless on trying to understand my pain. I read countless books about pain. I searched for answers about what happened to me and what causes complex regional pain syndrome. I did this for years on end. And to my dismay, by the end of physical therapy school, I still had no answers. I knew roughly how to treat someone with complex pain, but I also knew that a lot of the techniques I was taught in school would only have hurt me more as a patient. I knew something was missing, and that made me frustrated with my profession. So much so that I contemplated dropping out altogether before my final clinical rotation. The clinical rotation I was most excited for. It was a rotation at a specialized pain management clinic. With encouragement from my family, I stuck with it. When I arrived at the clinic, I did not know what to expect, but it was vastly different than the PT that I had seen prior. The focus was less on the physical ailments and more on the emotional aspect within the definition of pain that I've shared at the beginning of this video. I was told to just observe for the first week. By the third day, a patient with CRPS came into the clinic. I had only seen one other CRPS patient in my entire time in school. At the end of the visit, I started to feel this welling up of emotion inside me, and I just could not control it. I tried to talk to my clinical instructor about it, but I could not speak. Tears were streaming down my face, and I tried to vocalize what was on my mind. He looked at me, and he put his hand on my shoulder, and I'll never forget, he asked, "What are you feeling?" And without hesitation, without the need for thought, I responded, "Grief." And with that one word, my entire world changed. Finally, after years of searching and plenty of suffering, I knew what the true nature of my pain was. I knew there was more to the story of pain than I had told myself and others. So much more. I would like to share that with you. So let us go back, just one more time. The year is 2007. It's max out day in the weight room. My coach and my peers are gathered around me as I attempt to deadlift for a new personal record. I fail, and 2 days later, my first experience with back pain begins. I am told by my chiropractor that I almost broke my back. This first experience likely could have been due to a strained muscle or something similar, but from then on, I experienced the same back pain that came and went. Now, the year is 2011. My mother is at the end of her battle with stage 4 cancer of the brain, lung, and bones. I have moved home to put off college football to take care of her, to be a strong man and a good son. She had always wanted me to go to college and play football, and so as she took her last breath, I vowed to myself that I would make her proud. 6 months later, I was pushing myself physically and mentally to acquire the grades I needed to get in the university and play football, while also working 50 hours a week managing a gym to fund my schooling. I was doing everything I could to be perfect, the perfect son. There was no room to mourn and no room to feel the emotions around my mother's death. I was under too much pressure with this responsibility I had taken on. I could not grieve. And then I woke up one morning with back pain, and shortly after, I had back surgery number 1. The year is now 2012. I have healed from surgery number 1 and just found out I was accepted to the University of Central Missouri, where I would try out for the football team. That April, I received a phone call from my father that my older brother Shane had died, succumbing to the vice that had been tormenting him for several years. I attended the funeral and vowed to be strong for him, to live as the man I knew he truly was, to push myself physically and mentally. There was no room for emotion around his death. There was no room for grief. To me, as the oldest son, I had to step up for everyone now. I needed to be the perfect son. I needed to be the strongest brother. I went to the University of Central Missouri for a few months following his funeral and had my football tryout. The next day, after doing homework for a few hours, I stood up and my back pain returned. I drove home and I had surgery number 2. It's August 2012, 10 days after my second surgery. I am optimistic and beginning to walk, My back pain has been fixed surgically. My disc fluid has been sucked out, and there's nothing else to press into my nerves anymore. There's nothing stopping me now, I think to myself. I can rebuild and return to being the perfect son and the strongest brother. As I walk, I start to feel a pain in my left foot. Not again, I think to myself. What is structurally wrong now? I have been through so much so far. I can't have any more injuries. There are people counting on me. I am told the foot pain is normal, even as it gets worse. Several months later, after taking pills and visiting many specialists, I am finally diagnosed with complex regional pain syndrome. It is now 10 months later. I am standing in my kitchen attempting to drink my orange juice, and I fall to the floor. Spilling all over myself, I begin to cry. My body is broken. The only place for anything now is within my mind. And the only thing that I feel there now is grief. My mother and my brother's lives were taken too soon. They left me here alone. They did not get to see me shine, and now they never will. I never got to be the perfect son and the strongest brother. I cry as I think about ending my life. I cry as I think about theirs. I cry as I think about how angry I am, and I cry until I'm empty. I let go of the pain in my mind. I stand up. I start again. I take that first step. You see, what I never learned in school about chronic pain is that we are so much more than just structural. Yes, we can have physical changes in our body, but many of them, including bulging and herniated discs, are normal changes. And many people who have these changes do not have pain. The definition of pain given by the leader in pain research is an unpleasant sensory and emotional experience associated with or resembling that association with actual or potential tissue damage. An unpleasant sensory and emotional experience. Just like the thought of biting into a lemon made you salivate, the thoughts that we have around something can make us feel things in our body. A thought can cause a bodily change. Thinking about someone who broke your heart makes your chest hurt, also known as a heartache. Thinking about something that makes you anxious activates a gut feeling. Thinking about something makes you angry, makes you feel hot and clench your teeth. All emotions are felt in our minds and our bodies simultaneously. Even emotions we aren't fully aware of having, like the pressure to be perfect, the pressure to be strong, the pressure to care for others and put ourselves behind, the pressure to not grieve. The mind and body are like two sides of the same coin. If you manipulate one side, the other changes with it. If we don't let those emotions out of our minds, they show up in our bodies. The brain scrutinizes its environment within the mind and outside of it and declares whether or not pain is a utility. If there are emotions and thoughts in our minds that are deemed as dangerous, the brain protects us by producing pain. It pulls us away from deep sorrow and anger that is so intense that the brain believes it might even kill us. Like the intense mourning of deaths of your loved ones and the guilt you feel around them dying. In the eyes of the brain, the pain in the body distracts us and protects our world. It keeps us alive. Now, we know that stress and emotion can make pain worse. Is it so far-fetched to suggest that stress and emotion cause pain? As you go through the videos on this website and my YouTube channel, you will see that I am not the first to suggest this. I am in fact far from it. This truth has been right in front of us for thousands of years. We have just simplified it too much in the realm of medicine for the sake of profit, for the sake of practicing medicine rather than practicing healing. I am interested in doing the latter. In my profession, we have spent so much time looking at structural abnormalities that we have forgotten the second half of physical therapy, the human half, the therapy half. This is the sad truth of nearly every specialty within the medical field. My intent is to change that, even if just a little. I told you the same story here, but as you can tell, they are drastically different. We all have these stories inside of us. Some of us can change those stories and the things that created them, and some of us cannot. I'm here to tell you that there are tools for your pain and your healing that will not require more surgery or more pill bottles. I am here to show you those, and I want to help you find your window into pain.